Hi, I'm Todd Christ. I am a cloud solution architect at Intel Corporation. And today we're going to talk about building a secure and flexible hybrid cloud infrastructure with Azure Stack HCI and Intel. So in today's session, we're going to talk about the new era of transformation. We're going to talk about how to create the right hardware infrastructure to be able to be used at your edge or in your data center. We're also going to talk about the new capabilities that are available with Azure Stack HCI v2 with the latest third generation Intel Xeon Scalable processors. This new era of digital transformation is nothing new, but we are really working hard with Microsoft to help progress the whole digitization of everything. Whether you're focusing on AI capabilities, you have more security built around the platforms that you're deploying out into your network. And obviously, we want to connect everything back to a solid, secure cloud. So hybrid cloud is that big path forward as that foundation of that digital infrastructure. We want to give you flexibility. Anything that you can build on Azure Stack HCI from a basic 2-node configuration at the edge up to a full-blown 16-node configuration you'd have back in your data center. We're going to really leverage the on-prem investments that you have. A lot of customers have the desire and need to have some of their data on-premise due to regulations or governance. So we really want to make sure that we help you get the best performance possible of the platform that is inside your data center or at your edge retail location. And obviously with Azure Stack HCI, it gives you that rich cloud-like experience. So whether you're working in Microsoft Azure or if you're on Azure Stack HCI using something like Windows Admin Center to be able to do your control plane, it really helps you to have that simple and easy to use model. And you know that all the hardware underneath is providing the best possible capability for you to be able to go into this new era of digital transformation. So as we look at the hardware infrastructure, we've really worked hard with Microsoft, and Intel has worked over the past several years on building our latest generation processor. So codename is Ice Lake. It has built-in security. It is designed to give you more security than the previous generation as possible. We have AI that is built into the platform itself with Intel Deep Learning Boost. And obviously, if you can't, you talk about Intel, you have to talk about performance, right? We're always looking at how to improve the performance, whether it's at the edge or the full-blown data center, what I like to call the big iron in the data center. We've had a very big runway with Microsoft over the past 25 plus years in helping develop the best software and the best hardware to go together. So what we're trying to establish here is a really solid foundation for you to have the best security, to have the best AI capabilities, and obviously have performance whenever you need that and be able to scale that capability. So let's talk about these new security capabilities. So Ice Lake platform, the third generation Intel Xeon Scalable, was launched back in April of this year. And obviously we have different hardware cadences and software cadences. So we launched back in April, and Microsoft has launched their Azure Stack HCI v2 version. And what that has done is allowed Azure Stack HCI v2 to be able to implement the features that are found in that Ice Lake-based platform. We're building that foundation of trust. Obviously, things like secured core for server is something really big that Microsoft has been talking about this year, not only in Azure Stack HCI, but also in Windows Server 2022. But you're wanting to make sure that you trust the platform at the root level. You want to be able to know that your data at rest is being encrypted. You want to be able to protect that data. So if somebody would, an example, steal a hard drive or steal a system, you know that that data is encrypted and they're not going to get access to that. Data at rest is one of those components, but we also have to think of data in transit and data at use. We have new features that are built into this next-gen platform that helps protect your data no matter how it's being utilized. Things like Intel's crypto acceleration. We have vectorized AES, which helps speed up SMB acceleration and encryption. So you get a better performance model, you get faster data transfers, and you know that your data is encrypted as you're moving it between systems or from, say, a client system up to your server to be able to share that data. And also for data in use, we have new technology in this Ice Lake platform, Intel Total Memory Encryption. That encrypts all the memory on the platform. So at no point do you have any loss of encryption throughout your memory footprint. And we also have added Intel Total Memory Encryption multi-key. This is something that Microsoft has taken the forefront on, and they're the first operating system to implement Intel TME MK in the operating system for Azure Stack HCI version 2. And what this does is it gives you the capability to have up to 64 platform keys into the system, so the hypervisor itself can assign keys to the different VMs. So say you have a VM that is from finance, you have a VM that is your point of sales. You can't see the data between those two because they have separate encrypted keys, and Microsoft is helping to give you more control and give that hypervisor more control to be able to separate those data streams and be able to make things more secure across a platform. So just to reiterate on this slide, right, we want to protect the data at rest, in flight, and in use. Obviously, we want to protect the platform as a root of trust. You know it's a platform that you trust. Secured core capabilities are built into the latest third-generation Intel Xeon scalable platforms. So it gives you that trust, the resilience, and the visibility to know that your platform is secure and is ready to go. And obviously, anytime we can enable performance while you're encrypting and securing things is always an added benefit. Generally, people say with security, it becomes much more slow, but in our case, we're able to accelerate the encryption case, so you actually get a performance boost with a lot of these new crypto acceleration models. So let's talk about scaling AI across the hybrid cloud. AI is definitely one of the biggest features I think that customers are really looking at today. The third gen Intel Xeon scalable processors have deep learning boost built into them. So you might not have a GPU in your platform today, but that's okay. There are studies that we've done, and there's a link at the bottom here that you can go and learn how to utilize Intel's deep learning boost to help do inference on your workloads so you can scale that AI, whether it's your remote edge site or back in your home data center. It gives you capability to really do inference on your data to be able to refine that data set so you're not passing around a bunch of extra data that doesn't need to be passed around. You can do that workload right here and now, and then be able to pass that data on to the next point to be able to get some process on that. So definitely check out the link below. It's great to see that Microsoft has helped adopt this technology. Intel Deep Learning Boost is now in its second generation. We launched with our second generation, now in the third generation of Intel Xeon Scalables as well. So definitely take a look at that on how you can help adopt more AI workloads into your repertoire. So let's talk about performance and consistency of where you need it. We've done some studies with some third-party groups. For example, we did a study with ESG, and you can see the infographic there. One of the biggest features that Microsoft promotes and customers really adopt are SQL Server at the edge. And we're starting to see more and more customers deploying SQL Server to gather that data and not always have to push everything back to the central data center. If you can have a simple 2 or 3 node deployment at your retail store, you can start doing your SQL compute right there and then. And like I said in the previous slide, is you're able to do that data inferencing. You're able to do that deep dive into the data. So you're not always passing all the data back and forth. You're only passing the important data around. And what we've done is we've done studies between our previous generation and our current generation, and you can go look at this data study with ESG. It was a great experience to be able to understand the number of new orders per minute that you can transact, as well as looking at how much the cost is per transaction. So the more that we add more compute and even adding more of the license on top of this, we can actually drive down the cost of each transaction. So as you build your business and as the business grows, the bigger that you can build your platform on Azure Stack HCI, you can drive that cost down per transaction. And that makes a big difference in the end. And secondly, let's talk about the new CPU compatibility mode in Azure Stack HCI. This is something that Microsoft has worked on really hard over the past year, and this gives you capability to have disparate nodes from an Azure Stack HCI perspective. So you can have a second generation and a third generation in the same stack. The CPU compatibility mode gives you capability to amplify the strengths that are in each of those different platform levels. It gives you the capability to refactor, rebuild, and rehost much faster. Previously, you would have to, a CPU compatibility would somewhat dumb down the CPU stack to not perform as optimally as it possibly could. With the CPU compatibility mode, these features have been unlocked, and it gives you more capability, more capacity, and more ability to do more things in your platform. It gives you flexibility to grow and be able to stretch your workloads even further. So let's talk about how we streamline Azure Stack HCI. Intel has a marketing model called Intel Select Solutions. And what we do is optimize our Intel configurations in our labs. We do all the heavy lifting, all the benchmarking, all the studies, all the what if we put this part in or what if we put that part in. We do all these, the really deep dive configurations so you don't have to. We make this much, much simpler for the average consumer or for our OEM partners as well. The nice thing is that this brings a much faster time to evaluate the platform. We have all certified components in the platform. Everything that you would find in a select solution is going to be on Microsoft's hardware compatibility list. The nice thing is you don't have to guess of which platform components to put into your actual Azure Stack HCI build, whether it's a 2-node or a 16-node configuration. Each of these designs are scalable. We start with a base design that is qualified. We performance optimize it. We make sure you have the right BIOS settings, make sure that you have the right components, make sure the right speeds and feeds are in place, and we focus on particular workloads. Like with the ESG paper mentioned previously, we focused in on SQL Server as one of those heavy-duty workloads. And as those workloads evolve over time, we're going to work to build these Intel Select solutions as they move forward as well. Things like virtual desktop, things like remote site access. We really try to focus in on the capabilities of where you need to have those capabilities available and ready for you. So we have 3 considerations, as you start this digital journey, right? One is you have to start with the right foundation. The Intel architecture is there. We've been there for 50 plus years now. What we've done is build things like the Intel Select Solutions to make it easier to consume, take a lot of the guesswork out of that. So it helps you accelerate and get to market faster. The faster you can get data into your pipeline and start working on it, the faster you're making money, the faster your customers are more excited and more willing to come back for more return service. Number 2 is Microsoft and Intel, we really build the right technology together. We have so many people that work between both companies on a daily basis. We're always refining not only the hardware code, but things like software capabilities, things like Azure Kubernetes Service on Azure Stack HCI. A lot of these technologies, we work together as a joint company between Microsoft and Intel to really help build and modernize that infrastructure. And again, we think of you as the end state in mind. So making things easier to consume, make them easier to use, make them easier to deploy. Because ultimately, we want your lives to be easier and run much better. And the more work that we can do on the back end, it's much easier for you on the front end. And lastly, we build this path to hybrid capability. We have a very strong partnership with Microsoft, whether it's an Azure Public Cloud or an Azure Stack HCI, Windows Server, SQL Server. You think of all these different instances that we have, on-premise. And we have a really good stitching methodology with Microsoft to be able to build this hybrid model. So you can deploy your data wherever you need to, or you can capture data wherever you need to. You don't always have to send it back to the home system. You can capture that data, work on that data, and then pass the pertinent data up to the next step. So as we kind of dive a little bit deeper, there's other resources, there's other Ignite sessions that we can take a look at. Obviously, take a look at the data center modernization white paper. There's a technical use case white paper of the different features and functions that Microsoft is really promoting with Azure Stack HCI. And again, we try to build Intel Select solutions around these use cases. So really focus in on those and see, do they fit the right model for you? And then look at Intel Select Solutions as well and see, does that model fit for you as well? Again, just to reference the ESG analyst report, take a look at that, see how SQL Server was run, see how it could help drive that cost per transaction down and really help you build and move forward as you have those services in your own data centers. There's some other related sessions as well. There's solutions about driving better healthcare outcomes with confidential computing and Intel SGX or software guard extensions. That's on November 2nd. And there's a couple of other on-demand sessions as well. Securing and innovating hybrid and multi-cloud with Microsoft Azure. Learning everything about the new Azure Stack HCI feature update. So with Azure Stack HCI v2, not only is it the newer software that Microsoft is providing to give you better hybrid capability, better usability, but it also adopts a lot of those features that are in the 3rd gen Intel Xeon Scalable processor, those added security features, the AI features, the speeds and the feeds, the encryption. So all those features are really being exposed into Azure Stack HCI v2, and I really want you to be able to dig into these next level experiences and experience it for yourself. Reach out and talk with Microsoft. Reach out, talk with Intel. Look at the Intel Select solutions and talk to your partners as to how you can get these reference designs or get these hybrid models into play and really bring that into light to make your day-to-day computing better. Thanks again for watching. I appreciate your time today, and I hope you have a great rest of Microsoft Ignite.